Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Speculationcast. Tis I, Captain Logan, and joining me tonight is my son Jason.
That's me.
And guesting with us is my very good friend, a chiptune composer and retro game enthusiast, Aaron Hickman. Hello, Aaron.
Hey there.
It's good to have you back, man. It's been a long time.
I know. We did some Superhero Rewind, over a year ago now?
It's been longer than that. Yeah, Replay. We were doing some video games, and we keep talking about bringing that back at some point. Which I would really like to do. I'm gonna put you on the spot, Aaron.
Yeah.
If we announce that right now, what would the very next like retro superhero game be that you would get enthusiastic about covering?
Ooh, what about War of the Gems on Super Nintendo?
Yeah, is that one of the harder ones? Because I feel like all that stuff was just like nigh impossible for me to play.
God. I think it's less impossible. It's a Capcom game, late Super Nintendo release. It's less impossible than playing the two X-Men games on Sega Genesis.
Yeah, I did
it. As much as those are near and dear to my heart. War of the Gems is definitely not as difficult as those.
Yeah, I did a
has
gameplay.
The Hulk in it.
I did a gameplay video
Avengers.
years ago on Clone Wars, and that game looks beautiful, but God, it's hard.
It's really hard. One of the best looking Sega Genesis games. Honestly, I would cover that game too.
Sure. Anyway,
best.
maybe we'll finally get that back at some point. I've got all these different projects I'm wanting to bring back. But anyway, tonight we're going to talk about the all the swirling Nintendo Switch 2 rumors, and we're going to do an Honest to God speculation cast. So we're going to go down a list of everything that we ostensibly know, stuff that might be happening, stuff that is very likely to be happening, stuff that is less likely but plausible, and then we're going to put on in our 2 cents of what we think is really going to happen with this stuff and what we really want to see. Most importantly, what are the big selling features that the three of us have really got to see to entice us to want to get a Switch 2 at launch on day one. So that's what we're going to talk about this evening. Thanks a lot for watching live. Thanks for watching after the fact, folks. As always, if you want to make sure that your opinion is heard, you can leave a super chat in any dollar amount, and that'll guarantee that we talk about your thoughts, feelings, ideas, complaints, but also you can leave regular comments, and we'll try to interact with the chat as much as humanly possible. Quick plug for Aaron and Nick's show, Genesis Gems, which they've not been getting out as often as they used to lately, but they're still working at it as often as possible. I was on the last one a couple of months ago. So Genesis Gems, they're covering every Sega Genesis game they can manage to get around to. And I've been listening to that show for years, and that's how I met these guys. Had them on a show, like, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
Aaron, talking about that, and they've graciously invited me to several shows. Whenever they do superhero stuff, I tend to be on that show, and we just covered Incredible Hulk, which was a mixed bag, and somehow was a 3-hour show. I don't know how.
Yeah.
But if you're bored and mowing your lawn, there are 3 hours of us talking about that game that you can listen to.
And you can always skip around if you get bored. But I think it's pretty entertaining. I think if you want to, if you want to just hear us talk about the Incredible Hulk for 3 hours and about random stuff going on in our lives, that's what Genesis Gems is.
It's on Spotify. It's on every place you can listen to podcasts for the most part. You guys are on Apple, right?
Yeah, we're on Apple.
So anyway, check it out, Genesis Gems. It's a wonderful show. It's still my favorite podcast, but I'm biased because these guys are my friends now, and I've also been on it a few times. So let's go ahead and get into the Switch 2. So once again, we basically don't know anything, but there are a lot of very credible sounding leaks from various sources that, once again, we'll go through here in just a minute. But before we get into this article I want to read down, and like I said, we'll go systematically part by part. I want to know, first of all, because this isn't really covered too much in that article, what you guys think will likely be the name of the console and what you think would be the smartest thing to call it. Because the big thing, obviously, that Nintendo needs to be really careful about with whatever their follow-up console is to the Switch is that they don't wind up in a Wii U situation. So first of all, you can't call it the Switch U. That's a really bad idea. And you have to make it really clear that, like we didn't do with the Wii U, that it's not a peripheral, but an actual console, which I don't think they'll have any problem with.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that'll be an issue. But Aaron, let me start with you. Do you think it will be called the Switch 2? Or is that a placeholder thing and they've got a more whimsical title coming? What do you think?
I think it's a placeholder title. I think Nintendo learned their lesson after the Wii U and its notoriously failed launch and consumer confusion when everybody didn't want to buy it because they were like, we already have the Wii. What's the Wii U? They thought it was just an expansion. So Nintendo's really going to have to work hard to convince consumers that the Switch 2, and especially like parents buying these things for their kids, that it's an honest upgrade from the Switch, and it's going to need a name to match. And
okay, what do you think about
the
that,
Super
Jason?
Switch? I don't know.
Now, Super Switch is so you've jumped the gun. You've gone to where I wanted to go. Super Switch is precisely what I think they should call the console.
Switch 64.
Yeah. I think that is exactly the right flavor of throwback.
Switch Cube.
And
Switch Advance.
This tells you which generation
color.
you are depending on what your imagined name of the console is.
But yeah, like I think throwing back like that is a good idea. I think having Switch still in the title is probably what they're going to want to do if it's still a hybrid console, and all of the leaked information is suggesting that it will basically be a souped-up, upgraded Switch, and they're not reinventing the wheel again. I think they would be kind of idiots to try to do some kind of insane, gimmicky innovation this time. I don't think that will happen. There's a lot of talk that I'm jumping ahead. There's a lot of talk that there might be more like virtual reality integration and that kind of stuff this time around. That's fine. The other consoles have that now. But it would not be intelligent of them to go, we're gonna go all the way back and reinvent what a video game console is. It needs to still be hybrid. Now, do you agree with Aaron that Switch 2 would be confusing?
I don't think it would be.
I don't. I think that's precisely what PlayStation does now.
Right.
And since they don't do standalone handhelds anymore, if every new iteration was just that title but with a number, I think it would be pretty clear that it was a new console.
The PS2 was one of the best-selling consoles of all time. Now, it would be confusing if it was a completely different thing and it was called Switch 2, which is what stuff like back in the day, like in television and the Odyssey did, where it was just the same console or just a completely different thing, and they called it the 2, and it made no sense because it was the exact same console that played the exact same games.
Now, is there any chance that they'll do the weirdness of
New Nintendo Switch.
I was gonna say of Microsoft, where they just call it the Switch again, but it's a different console?
No,
The
that was
Switch
worst.
series.
No, I still get that confused. Series S, Series X. It doesn't parse well.
It doesn't.
I don't know why they did that to
And it's
themselves.
really problematic when you try to buy them used, especially because the S's look almost identical to the one S's. Yeah.
Just give me the Duke controller and the original Xbox, and that's all you need.
We almost bought something that said Xbox Series 1S. How are we supposed to know what that is?
Yeah, I was looking into getting in a Series S, and I almost pulled the trigger on one because I didn't notice that it had 1 in the title, and yeah, it said 1 and Series in the title. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Ideas I'm seeing in the comments here, everybody, Tribble Knight, Switch Boy Advanced Entertainment Console. Robert Wild, 2 Switch, 2 Furious. And Tribble Knight, the Switch 2, Joy-Con Drift. That's pretty good. We'll talk about Joy-Con Drift a little bit later, and how amazing the Switch has been as a console, because if it wasn't incredible in all the ways it's incredible, it would have fallen apart the same way the Wii U did.
Yeah.
Because they should not have been able to get past the Joy-Con drift problem, and not only did they weather getting sued into what would have been oblivion for other companies and stuff, but they even were able to have the audacity of putting out the OLED with the, or not the OLED, I think the OLED maybe has new sticks, I'm not sure, but the light,
What? Yeah.
but the light with the exact same sticks
In
3 years
2019.
later.
Yeah.
After they were already sued about the audacity of that. I'll never get my mind around it.
Go ahead.
So, my question is, will they go the Wii U route and try something new in addition to the hybrid thing? Which is what the Wii U did, where it had the gamepad, but it also had all the stuff from the Wii with motion controls and stuff. Or will it be just another Switch, but it looks better,
and a lot of the leaks are suggesting that it is the latter.
Yeah.
I don't know what that extra gimmick would look like.
I don't know what it would look
And
like.
the biggest piece of evidence to support that they won't, again, reinvent the wheel in any way is the fact that a Switch Pro was supposed to happen, but never happened.
True.
That makes sense.
That makes this basically the Switch Pro.
Right.
So I'm thinking about when they went from the original DS, which sold like hotcakes, to the 3DS. And the big innovation there was they added, the 3D effect, right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if they would use some sort of goggles-free 3D tech for this new Switch, but that's a possibility. That's something in the realm of possibility.
I'd be surprised if they went that way, because most people didn't really bother with the 3D on that system, and they just toggled it off.
Right. And I mean,
That's fair.
You know the other innovation they did with the 3DS? They made it $250.
We'll
sold
talk
you,
about
like,
pricing.
10 versions of the same. It's like you had the 3DS, the new 3DS, the 2DS,
the
new
3DS
3DS
XL, the new 3DS
Exactly.
XL, the 2DS, the new 2DS XL. Yeah, this is gonna be the new Nintendo Switch DS XL SP Lite
Hope not.
Advance.
Yeah, everybody's suggesting that this might come out
You-
with 2 different models, one which would, like Microsoft is doing, which would have physical games supported, and one which would just be digital. Maybe they'll launch with 5 different models. I hadn't had that thought.
I remember when Sony did that. You remember back in the PSP days,
Yeah.
they had, and this is a different time now because I'm seeing articles where game manufacturers are wanting to go digital only completely. But I remember when Sony had the PSP, they had the PSP Go, which did not have a port.
It didn't have physical. It only had digital
it didn't have
games,
physical.
and
it tanked.
Yeah, and now it
was ahead of its time.
It pretty much doesn't exist now, which tells you something about going to digital. Because
kind of.
Yeah, well, you don't own anything.
You don't. Well, the thing is, you can't buy anything on that service anymore because it's discontinued.
Well, you can't even buy anything on 3DS anymore.
Right.
That just doesn't feel that long ago to me.
So, I don't.
Companies aren't your friends. That's the thing. That's
the
big
takeaway from
Companies
this.
are not your friends.
And that's a whole other conversation we could do an entire podcast on. Absolutely. Hey, real quick, let me read the super chat. Tribble Knight, which was a name I didn't recognize and hadn't heard until tonight. He's been leaving a lot of fun comments. $2 New Zealand, which I don't think is a monetary type I've ever seen before in a super chat. Thanks, man. He says, finally, I can catch one of your streams live. We're so happy to have you here. And YouTube is telling me that we should celebrate their first super chat on a live stream. So let's do that with the gong, shall we? Yeah, he gets the gong. Okay, so let's go ahead and start looking down.
I forgot you had a gong.
I just want to see the look on Aaron's face. Aaron, who is not aware that there's a gong on my desk. Let's go ahead and start
what
running.
What show am I on? I recognize that.
oh, have you heard the gong before?
Well, I know of the Gong Show. I remember this show.
Well, sure. You know, we could have restructured this where you could have been the unknown gamer, you know, and just come in with like a paper sack over your head.
Yeah.
And nobody would know what you looked like. And then we'd have a big reveal at some point and be like, oh, it's this guy.
Who's that?
Which nobody knows what he looks like anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
True.
Yeah. Well, he finally revealed himself in like the late 90s. And he was on the show where they made the unknown comic. Nobody's gonna have any idea what we're talking about, Aaron.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And it was the show where I think it was like a New Year's Eve show for the year 2000. And the whole show, they're making a big deal. We're going to reveal who the unknown comic is. And you get to the end of the show, and he takes his mask off, and it's some guy. It's not like anybody knew who he was.
Yeah, that was the whole thing with, like...
Every commercial break was like, stay tuned! We're going to show you the unknown comic. It's like
I have a vague memory of that. Either I knew about that or watched it on, like, VH1.
I saw it when it happened!
Yeah, that was the whole thing with, like, Dream, right? The Minecraft guy. Where
yes!
Yeah, he took his mask off and it's just some guy, and now he has no views because everyone knows what his face looks like now, so it doesn't matter. And he just doesn't even make videos anymore.
Oh no, he had the Cheers problem.
Yeah.
You know, we got him together, and then, yeah. All right, are you guys ready to look at this article?
Yeah.
Here we go. So this is from something called bbomb.com. I've never heard of this, but they did a good job putting this article together. So this throws together, like I said, all of the major leaks that we've had so far. We're going to start with the release date. This says the release date of the Nintendo Switch is now expected to be, again, all of this, grain of salt, expected to be alleged, ostensible, all of those caveats, now expected to be September of 2024. Reportedly, dev kits of the Switch 2 have already been sent to various game development companies, which is something we have heard before.
So,
however, note that certain insiders have claimed the leaked release date is just guesswork, so things are not concrete for now. And going by the announced date of the first-gen Switch, which, again, grain of salt, I don't know how much stock you can take in that, but this is a good point. He says the handheld launched globally around 4 months after its initial unveiling. When Nintendo announced the newer Switch OLED with a better screen, the device launched 4 months later. So if we can take any stock in that, we'll probably get an official announcement. This suggests April or May of this year.
The big thing that we know the September date from, and there are some other things too, is there was a tweet from because Game Shark is coming back.
Explain that to me. What is it going to do? Because I heard something about AI with
that. They're doing it. I don't know exactly how they're doing it, but they're using AI to, I guess, just do the Game Shark thing, and they're making it like Chrome extensions. I guess it's probably gonna be like that, but for the PS4 and the Switch, or the PS5 and the Switch 2, and whatever. And basically what, which I'm excited about. I think that's cool that that's coming back. But I think it's gonna be called like the AI Shark or something.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
But they put out a tweet that was like it'll come out along with the release of the Switch 2 in September.
Okay.
And then
so that's pretty credible then.
Yeah, and then later.
Yes.
And then later he was like, "Yeah, that's just guesswork. We don't know."
These things also get pushed back a lot too, so they could officially announce September and it still be closer to November, right?
Mm-hmm. But that's the main thing that we know the September date from. So yeah, we have no idea.
But are we all in agreement that regardless of the exact month, it'll be this year, right?
I think it will, yeah.
I mean, when they will announce it?
No, when it'll come out.
When it'll come out.
No, I think it would. I think it would probably come out next year, but maybe by the end of this year, we'll see.
Well,
I would think next year.
I think
They've just been putting it off for so long.
Yeah. The thing is, we're in this final stretch of the Switch where it's just remakes and sequels.
Yeah, they're not announcing any big titles,
right.
And they've already put out the sequel to Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And as soon as that happened, and there's been no announcements for any other games anything like as big as that.
Right.
And also keeping in mind that it's been 7 years and they're working on really, really old hardware at this point.
Right.
With third parties that can't keep up with big AAA games.
Mm-hmm.
You've got you've got a lot of people going, well, the pattern usually is we end with we end the cycle of a console with a Zelda game. I think that's basically happened, but they're just staving it off for as long as they can.
Yeah.
Well, you say that, but they did just put out Mario Wonder,
right?
So that makes me think
But, I mean,
maybe they got something else up their sleeves, because
maybe
Zelda was, it was the last game. Like when you think about it, it was the last game on the GameCube and the first game on the Wii. It was the last game on the Wii U,
and simultaneously the first game on the Switch.
First game on the Switch. So what I think probably will happen, kind of like what you're saying, is when the Switch 2, whatever it's called, launches, I'm sure Tears of the Kingdom will be right there. But it sure seems like Nintendo has at least a little more gas in the tank for the Switch. And it's crazy because this thing's been going for 6 years now. Hardware isn't getting any younger, but I played Tears of the Kingdom and I played Mario Wonder. I've got both games, and they, I don't know what sort of magic Nintendo does for their first party games, but those games run great on the Switch.
Well,
yeah, no,
okay,
absolutely.
I'm
third party games that don't always run well.
But
I know
okay,
that.
but let me counter this for a second, Aaron, and like
Sure.
I don't mean to just go off of like other gaming channels, because I'm not a gaming channel, and like I don't mean to just go with what everybody else is saying, because nearly everybody I'm hearing is saying there's no way it doesn't come out this year. But let me suggest this: if it's next year, do you think it's early next year? Because I don't see Nintendo not launching the system around Christmas.
right.
If they miss Christmas, are they really going to want to put it out in like February or March?
I mean, that's what they did with the Switch, to be fair.
Did they?
Yeah.
I just
Put it out
couldn't
in
remember what part of the
February.
year it came
They
out.
put it out in February.
2016.
Here's the thing,
It's just
and
with
I'm
all
not-
these rumors circulating, it would be really surprising to me if it comes out in like January or
Here's
February
the
next
thing,
year.
I'm not saying that. So I'm not saying that Aaron's wrong that
No, anything can happen. Absolutely.
where the newest games are actually like pretty good, but keep this in mind. With the Wii U, they announced the next big new Zelda game in like 2012, 2013, and that came out in 2017. and that was the last big Wii U game. Here, they announced Tears of the Kingdom in 2018, and there hadn't been a actually like new 2D Mario game since 2012.
And to your point about Wonder, that's the kind of thing they like to sleeper drop.
Right.
The kind of bigger, more AAA-esque stuff. I mean, like, Mario feels AAA because it's Mario and it sells like that, but that is an easier game to make on a time crunch.
Well, and here's the thing.
I don't think that with Wonder, though. I think Wonder, like, it was not cookie cutter.
No,
Wonder,
it wasn't at all, but I don't think it took 6 years to make.
No, I doubt that. But
Wonder
they did get.
Was probably like in like the back of their minds.
Yeah.
And probably not like, you know, a big.
But all I'm saying is, we knew about Tears of the Kingdom for a long time. Wonder wasn't announced until just before it came out.
No, that was a surprise drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, it was.
I think you know, that and like the Super Mario RPG remake. I think the last
Detective
big thing
Pikachu 2.
They love to do that with retro throwback stuff.
Here's what I think we're still missing is here's the big one, at least for me. Metroid Prime 4, not, you know, the remake, the remaster of Metroid Prime came out, and it runs amazingly on the Switch. So
Well, and wasn't 4 announced like 10 years ago? Like they
No. It was,
well, not I don't know about 10,
2017.
but definitely.
It was 2017.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought that was one of those where they kept going back and forth, like at some point we'll make it.
No, that was Dread.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Dread did have that.
Yeah, Dread was originally
still
a DS
happening.
game.
Yeah, so that's the big
Well, let's get ahead of ourselves
Nintendo
for a
game
minute. Is it possible that that's one of the things that comes out in the first year they launch with?
I could see that.
I could see that too.
I could see that as being a sleeper drop thing.
The thing is,
potentially
that Metroid Prime 1 was in the first year of GameCube. Keep that in mind.
And that was a system seller.
Yeah, it was.
Sure.
Well, I would think they would, of course, want to open with a big system seller, especially if... I mean, that goes without saying, but what I mean is, like, the Switch launched with Zelda, and then not too long after, you got the souped-up version of Mario Kart 8. I would think that you'd really need a big system seller that wouldn't be able to run on the original Switch to entice people to upgrade, especially if this is
Xenoblade Chronicles 4.
Yeah, if this is a souped-up Switch and not a totally reinvented thing, and especially if it has backward compatibility, you have to launch with something that you couldn't even imagine running on the Switch.
Right.
Elden Ring.
And they need to be smart enough that whatever that is not just VR. I think that would be a big mistake.
Right.
You know, like if they open with something like
Link's crossbow training VR.
Well, I was gonna say like the Matrix demo that everybody keeps testing things on. Like if they finally had a full version of that game or something sort of like that, and that's what they launched with, big mistake.
That's a big mistake. Yeah.
You can't just launch with VR.
Well, knowing
I don't think VR is as I don't know. VR is not as popular as people think
it's not. That's what I'm saying. But I could see Nintendo making that mistake where they go, you know, we haven't launched yet VR, and we're going to do it better than anybody else. You know, somehow. Let me ask you this real quick.
They don't even have Nintendo doesn't even have the online infrastructure. Let's be honest.
No, they don't. But could they launch with new infrastructure? Because that was a big question that I was going to ask.
Can we talk about launch titles for just 1 second? They have. So, in the last 3 consoles, the launch title has been all about the new thing, right? So with Wii it was Wii Sports, with Wii U it was Nintendo Land, and with the Switch it was 1-2
Switch.
So
or what is 1-2 Switch?
Well, here's
Virtuous Sports.
Here's the thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Here's the thing. Originally, I was gonna say, 1-2 Switch 2, but
1-2-3 Switch.
Guess
Did
what?
They make a sequel to 1-2 Switch.
Guess
like
what they put out in July last year. Everybody 1-2 Switch. So what are they doing this?
I forgot about that.
For this next one. Yeah, no, it didn't make any money.
Who cares? Yeah.
No, they'll definitely do something They actually had like a really cool game on the Wii U to demonstrate what the Wii U could do at launch. I'm trying to remember what the name of it was, but it was something where you had to play the game, like one person would play with the handheld and then the other players would have to watch the screen. And so I imagine with this next console, they'll have at least one game that uses whatever technology is really well, and the rest of the games will either be ports of things you already like or a sequel to something you already like. Like, oh, guess what? Here's a new Mario Kart. What? Mind blown. An actual new Mario Kart or an actual new Smash game. I could totally see that happen. But
So
let's be honest. Like,
let's go ahead and get into that because that's a big
okay,
thing Jason
so-
wanted to talk about. Now, first of all, Mario Kart is actually plausible.
Mario Kart is very plausible
Because they've been milking 8 forever, and it
Yeah.
kept selling all the way through the system cycle, which is why they just added tracks finally, and they never made a new one. Jason has a really good explanation as to why Smash is not likely to launch.
Smash-
Because that was my prediction for a while, and he has sold me on my being wrong
So
on that.
originally I was like, yeah, there's no way they're even gonna do Smash in this next console, and which is why that was like a big deal for me. Like, we really need this to have backwards compatibility, or there's gonna be no Smash, right? But
I'll tell you more GameCube dongles.
yeah,
Here's another GameCube dongle.
true. We need
And
more
I-
of those.
and I bought that,
I need
and-
more of those in my life.
I have so many GameCube controllers now. Sorry, go ahead.
But Sakurai, creator of Smash, if you don't know, and Kirby.
Yep.
Woohoo. Kirby's great. But Sakurai just stated that he was taking a break from games for a while, and he was running his YouTube channel, which is one of the best YouTube channels.
Yeah,
ever.
Jason's an avid viewer of
And-
that.
He recently stated that he was coming back to making games, and this year he's shutting down his channel, which makes me think that this year sometime he's going to start working on Smash. Not
He's been working on it.
Yeah, it's
I
the
I can't poke any holes in that logic. I think
Yeah.
that's spot
I mean,
on.
maybe he's going to plant a new flower garden.
well, the thing is, I really hope they don't.
But they can't. But I don't think they can make Smash without him. Which means if he's not been working
No.
on it, that's not
They're not gonna.
that's
make
not
Smash
been in
without
development. Yeah.
them. The thing is,
And people have been speculating there could be a new Smash game because it's a big anniversary year and they have lots of plans for stuff for Smash. But I don't think it can be a new game unless he let somebody else work on it.
right, and I don't. Now,
Yeah.
here's something. It could be Melee HD. It
Oh,
could be.
okay.
That is a possibility that they've been talking about for a while, and that they just haven't done because they know that Sakurai they're worried about his health. And that's why I think a new Smash would be terrible on him, especially if they do the Melee thing and have a big time crunch, because he worked way too hard on that. Because
Is it, not to get too off the beaten path here, but is it possible that one of the big plans is just more DLC? Because I mean, they kind of said they were done with that, but like but if they did an HD Smash like you're talking about, like if the launch title was it's Smash again, you have to rebuy it at $60 or $70 now. We can get in price points later, but this time around, you get a bunch of new free characters along with it, and maybe they roll them out the same way the Mario Kart tracks just did, where it's over like a year or two. I could see something like that happening.
Smash
I
Ultimate
think
Deluxe.
Nintendo's kind of bad at preserving their Smash Brothers legacy, right? Like, they don't really look back. They've brought out, I think you can play the original Smash Bros. Maybe on the expansion service. I can't remember,
No,
but
Not
you
yet.
can't.
We're,
No,
hoping, we're
okay.
hoping they put that out, but they haven't done
that's
that yet.
so odd. Okay, so
I know.
that's a series where they really just push you to buy the newest thing, and it's odd to me, but maybe it's because there's always a new one out that has most of the tracks, like a Mario Kart, or most of the stages that you would want to play. I get that the mechanics are not the same exactly in Melee, but it could be that thing where Nintendo is wanting you to buy the newest version of their thing, and they don't want to push you towards the older version of this fighting game.
Which is why I'm not. I really. I'm.
Sure, but an upgrade like that wouldn't be that. Like it would just be a thing that only that new version of the Switch would play.
But I want backwards compatibility, and I know they're probably not gonna do it.
Well, we can speculate about that later, and that's on this list.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Let's go ahead and start blowing through more of these aspects, shall we? So let's get into pricing. Nintendo launched the original Switch. I'm reading this article now at $299. A few years later, OLED was launched at $349. Nintendo doesn't go over the top when it comes to pricing. While games are expensive, and keep in mind they're jumping to $70. Which means they've got to be really, really careful about how good the hardware is, because they've always been able to get away with. Let me say this real quick. They've always been able to get away with not having their specs at the same place the next gen systems are, partly because their stuff is always $10 cheaper, and they're not doing that anymore, which suggests that they're also charging for their online now, which they didn't used to do, and so. All of these new moves suggest that Nintendo is trying harder than ever to actually compete with the other big two, which they've never really done before. So they got to be really super careful that this is much closer to an actual next-gen system.
Yeah.
They cannot charge $70 for their games and be a whole generation behind.
Right.
One thing I know is Nintendo is really good at not playing by Sony and Microsoft's rules. I could totally expect them to put out another console that is not as powerful as, say, the PS5.
Yeah, well, and we'll get to
that.
it. The rumors are that this system actually is supposed to be as powerful as a base PS5. Obviously, we'll see on that, Aaron. But it sounds like they're coming closer to playing by everybody else's rules, because they're looking to a lot of people as getting kind of greedy, because now they're going to $70 price points, and I'm hoping they don't do it with everything. But the new Zelda was $70. And they were, this is third party, but they were crazy enough to put Mortal Kombat 1 out at $70, which was a disaster, and then and then the remake of Mario RPG was a $60 release, which is preposterous for what that was. Yeah. It looks great, but is that a $60 game?
No.
I don't think it is.
I would say probably a $40 game.
Yeah.
It's a $40 game.
I'd say 40, but it's a beautiful remake. But I'm with you. I see your point.
But don't you
there.
feel like they're changing their tack a little bit,
game.
where they're starting to play more at the level of the other two? It bugs me.
I think they're putting Mario vs. Donkey Kong out at 50, which is ugh. Makes me mad.
I hardly ever buy. Honestly, I hardly ever buy games at retail price unless it's something like my wife really wanted Tears of the Kingdom when it came out, so we got that. And I hadn't finished, Breath of the Wild yet, so.
But you got to remember
that at 60. But most games, I end up getting things when they're on sale through the Switch shop, and I honestly, that means I don't end up getting a lot of first-party titles, because Nintendo never. I shouldn't say never, but they hardly ever put their games on sale. So I was
going to say
a lot of times they do end up at the higher price.
And they also stay at the initial price point forever. And once they go to a full-on, and I don't think it's going to happen this time around yet, at least not right away, but once they go to a full-on digital model, and inevitably everybody's going to go non-physical, eventually, once that happens with Nintendo, it's going to be a lot harder for you to do that. Except for Christmas sales and stuff, and even then, the best you ever get is $20 off, and that's when they're in a really, really nice mood. You know what I mean? So, you're right. You can wait and not do that, but that people that, instant gratification have to have it right away. They're it's not going to hurt them bad enough on the back end that they're going to not charge $70 for these games. Like if that becomes the standard, they're not going to backtrack on it. It's going to stay at 70.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go. You're right. They're not going to go backwards. And I agree with the digital point. I do think the thing we do need to talk about, I know it's on our list, is the big elephant in the room, which is backwards compatibility. Because I have well over, I don't know, 200 Switch games, digital and otherwise.
Yep. We've got
and
half
just
that,
like
yeah.
with like my Wii, and I honestly I skipped the Wii U. Sorry guys. But just like my Wii, I had a whole bunch of games that were tied to that system, and they didn't make the jump anywhere else. So like with the Switch, I worry that it's the same deal where, I would love for Switch 2 to be backwards compatible and to be able to play games kind of like with the PS5 or the newer Xboxes where you can play your older games and they run better. Could you imagine playing a Switch game? Here's a perfect example. What if you got to play Zelda and suddenly, it was 60 FPS, no slowdown, and everything looked slightly better, or like the Zelda Link's Awakening remake where I couldn't play it anymore because there was little bits of slowdown that annoyed the crap out of me. I would love to see them be like, hey, here you go, play it on the Switch 2.
So since you jumped us there, we can go ahead and talk about that. And I'll just paraphrase. The article basically says nobody knows yet. There's not there, yeah, and that makes me really nervous. There's no leaks whatsoever yet that I have found that suggests really one way or another. I mean, there's a lot of people speculating. It has to be for them to compete, and it should be. But everything is really inconclusive. We have no idea yet. And to your point, Aaron, like my Switch at this point feels like a retro powerhouse. Yep. Like I can't start over, and backwards compatibility is so like the only way I buy the Switch 2 or whatever it ends up being called, and it's not backwards compatible, is when that one system seller comes out where I feel like I'm kind of forced to, where I just got to have that. But I'll have that system for that one game or the few games that ultimately come out that I have to get over time. But it won't be the thing I carry around with me. I'm not going to use it a lot. I'm going to use the initial Switch more, and it's going to be irksome that I have to have those two pieces of hardware, even though I'm a hardware hoarder and I hang on to every system I've ever had, and it's kind of fun to do that. But like backwards compatibility is more important with the Switch, in my opinion, with the Switch 2 than any other system that has ever existed. And the reason is because of the fact that it's portable. So like people back in the day, as you know, Aaron, were irritated, especially parents who felt like it was like money gouging when the Super Nintendo was not backwards compatible with the NES. But the difference is, if you already have an NES, as long as the thing doesn't break down, at least it's not like redundant hardware. It's going to feel more redundant with this if you've got this old piece of technology that plays this souped-up library that I keep saying souped-up, this library that you've been building. I mean, like it's a Mario powerhouse. Nearly every Mario thing that has ever existed can be played on the Switch, and if you have a terabyte SD card, you can carry all of it around with you in your pocket and play it anytime you want to. The idea that Nintendo could have the audacity to try to get you to rebuy any of that stuff down the road again so you can have it all in one place bothers the crap out of me, because it is possible they will be stupid enough to do that.
They could do that.
They absolutely could.
What happened with the 3DS? There was nothing to replace that other than the Switch. And most of those games, I mean, Maybe a few games here and there have been ported over to the Switch from the 3DS, but massive amounts of that library is tied to that system, tied to the digital service, and it's gone. The only way you can play those games now is if you either have it on your 3DS or if you, you pirate. That's about it.
The only reason they got away with porting so much from the Wii U to the Switch and charging full price and maybe adding some additional bells and whistles, like with Bowser's Fury and stuff, was because nobody owned a Wii U, and those games were all new to those people. And like NBC said in the late '90s, if you haven't seen it, it's new to you. You can't do that with the Switch 2. And I don't know if they'll go that far. I think it is possible they'll split the middle, and it'll be like backwards compatible, like for one aspect of it, but not the other. So what I mean is it possible that the that Switch games, like you'll have the slot where you can put your physical games in, and like there'll be a model that has that, maybe another model that won't, but the new Switch will have a totally different like online infrastructure, so that what you have access to with the online is different from what you have right now with the Switch. I really wonder about that. I'm hoping not. I mean, like hopefully
I think if
the library will be the same, and the online will be the same.
Here's my bet, and I'm not betting any money, but I think the storefront is going to be completely its own thing, and maybe the only thing that crosses over is maybe the Switch Online stuff. Honestly, that's the pessimistic way to think about it, but that's
will it go
where I think they're going.
Will it go the PS Vita way and have most of the PSP library on the on the eShop? And
that would be nice. I just
well,
haven't seen Nintendo.
It wouldn't. It wouldn't be, because you would have to rebuy all those games.
Well, the hope would be that anything you already own, you can still download. So what I hope would happen is that we can have our cake and eat it too, where the interface is totally different on the Switch 2, because the interface on the Switch is terrible.
It sucks.
But you still have access to all the same things, and if you bought it already on Switch, you're able to port it over. That's like re-download it. That's my hope, because they need to but they need to fix it on the Switch too. They need to fix it so that there's not this insane amount of slowdown on the menus whenever you're searching for things. Like, that interface is the worst thing ever.
They will never fix that. Because, I mean, that was a problem on the Wii, the Wii U, the 3DS, the DS.
Well, look, they
need to finally fix that interface.
City Shooter Simulator 3 on there, and all the other shovelware that gets through the storefront. They need to be able to have that pop up for you so you can pay your 99 cents and be really sad.
You know what they might do?
See, look, Aaron, I know you try your best not to be horribly negative with this kind of stuff, but we gotta call it like we see it, okay? The gloves come off. You know any of the nonsense we're talking about is possible with them.
It is. I've been around the block too many times to know that,
put these back on because it's cold.
When I lost my, I have over here off camera, I've got two Wiis, and neither one of them has content where you can just put it in the cloud and you've got that content. It is tied to that Wii. That's it. So when I lost my first Wii, all of the stuff I had downloaded, gone. Now, of course, I think with the Switch now, I think it's in the cloud, right? Most of it's in the cloud.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. If it's gonna go over to the next console or not. It's kind of either or with
my
Nintendo.
Question is,
you just don't know with them,
because I don't think it'll have a slot for the Switch. So my question is, there are rumors that, and we'll get to this, but there are rumors that they will transfer over your Nintendo account, right, from the Switch.
That has been full-on confirmed by Nintendo. Okay. That's not a rumor. That is direct from the horse's mouth on Twitter.
Okay. So, if that's
as far as I saw,
then will they take every and I don't know exactly how this would work because that would basically be stealing, but I mean, you could steal games like that.
Yeah.
But would it take games that your Nintendo account has played and put it onto that Switch? Where, like, you've already bought the games, and it's like...
Oh, yeah, restoring your purchases.
Where, like, maybe, like, games that you've played for so-and-so hours on your Switch, on your Nintendo account from your
What
game
makes
card.
me nervous is that it seemed like they were trying to put everybody at ease by saying your Nintendo account will be the same. The fact that they didn't also go deeper to say, and also you'll be able to download the games that you already have on the Switch library, it makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't say that part. And I don't know why you would confirm one but not the other. Like, they have to know that's what everybody wants to know.
By Nintendo account, did they also mean the, like, Switch Online service?
They just said the account,
Yeah.
which just suggests your sign-in is the same. That's all we know, is your sign-in is the same.
I mean, here's the thing. That's true from the Wii U. Like...
Yeah. Well, that's true. But it seems like they're just giving you little morsels and not really telling you anything.
Right.
Yeah, we've got rumors and speculation and some things that seem like they're fairly plausible. The one thing I wish we could confirm is that Nintendo will switch to using like those Hall effect sensors for their sticks, because those things are great, and they definitely didn't use them in the Switch, but those mean that you won't have drift. And
well, again, you're getting ahead of me. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let me get back to pricing for a second.
Yeah. What do you think for a console?
What?
Because we've talked about
for what the price of the console will be.
Because we've only talked about games.
We have. So let me read this part of this article real quick. Bigger gaming consoles with advanced computing capabilities, like the Series Systems PS5, sold at near the $400 price point. This guy is suggesting the final price won't go above $400, because what he's suggesting earlier that I read is that Nintendo will take a decent loss on consoles in order to sell software. They've always worked that way. I agree with him that it's probably, though, going to be closer to 400 than it is to 3.
Yeah,
I think 350 to 4 is most likely, but I also think that there's every possibility that you'll see two different models, and that you'll have one that takes physical games and one that doesn't,
right.
Because they're taking, I'm telling you, Aaron, they're taking a lot of their cues right now from the other systems. Yeah. And the other systems are doing that.
Now,
I mean, the Switch already took stuff from the other consoles. Let's think of it this way. The way they set up their shop, the way that they kind of removed any traces of music.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Music, or I don't know. Like, they used to have this vibe, like on the Wii. Everyone remembers the shop music. And you had the very ambient soundscape when you go on the Wii. That kind of disappeared.
No,
the Switch came out, and you lost. I feel like you lost a little bit of I don't know, lost a little something when it came.
No,
to
it feels more sterilized. They've, you made the point a while ago that Nintendo kind of marches to the beat of their own drum, but they're doing a little bit less of that lately. I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, because I want them to split the middle somewhere. Like, there's a part of me that wants them to compete more, and then there's a part of me that wants them to continue to go their own way. And I guess what I really want is for them to not feel like they have to reinvent the wheel and get gimmicky every time, but I want them to also continue to play to their strengths and not feel like they have to be a full-on next-gen console, because I don't care as much about the graphical side of it. I do think it's kind of crazy that for the longest time they've launched like a generation behind. So if this is going to be a souped-up Switch, it really does need to be at closer to this generation's graphical ability, especially because third-party stuff has done really well for them with Switch. And the fact that you can play like Doom on that system and stuff is crazy to people, and
Witcher 3,
kind of exciting. And that before you had other companies jumping into the hybrid thing, like with the Steam Deck and stuff like that. They were doing that before anybody else was. So I mean, the question is, do they have to keep doing that kind of hardware innovation to compete? I don't think so. I think people have kind of caught up with them, and a lot of people that didn't care about Nintendo before do now because they did the hybrid thing so well. And I don't think Steam Deck has cut into them so much that they can't still continue to do that well. I just think they need to split the middle, where they still do what makes them uniquely Nintendo, but not have to have some big crazy gimmick every time. So like this time you can play the system with your feet, and then everything, and then all their games, they have a mode where you have to use your feet.
Yeah.
I think okay. So here's one thing: they eliminated a whole line of handheld consoles. Right, Nintendo did when they released the Switch. They phased out the 3DS, and so now they only have one line, right? And so the next big thing, I would think, will probably follow the hybrid route, because they don't have anything else that's handheld. So I think it will still continue to be something. I think they realize how attractive it is.
No, they'll do that forever.
For you be able to pick up your console and go and play it anywhere. I think that's still going to be a thing.
There's no question about that, and it was actually kind of shocking to me that with the next gen consoles, the other companies didn't try harder to make that happen on their own end.
I think they've gone up against Sony's gone up against Nintendo and got trounced, right, when it came to the handheld stuff. And they even tried to do something new with the. Have they even released that yet? Something for the PS5 that's supposed to be like a mobile screencast.
I don't even want to get into that piece of crap. It's the dumbest thing. And for some reason, it sold well and people are buying it. It's $300.
That's exactly
you can't
what the Vita did.
Use it apart from your console. I don't understand that thing.
Yeah, when I had a Vita, that's exactly what it did. You could stream your PS3 and PS4 games. It wasn't amazing, but you could do it.
Wasn't that cool 15 years ago?
Yeah, it was cool. Vita had
you
OLED.
Could do that?
Vita was ahead of its time.
I actually did not know you could do that.
But that was cool back then in a way it's not now, when you have the Switch and you can connect it to your TV and take it to Starbucks. Like, I don't understand.
I mean,
look, I had a Sega Nomad. That was the coolest.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I'm still jealous of you about that. Let me read this comment real quick from PlushieDX, because I might have made a mistake. He says Nintendo has never sold consoles at a loss. That's what the other companies do. If that's true, I didn't realize that, but they've always been a little cheaper, or at least they have the last few console cycles.
Yeah, or they.
But I don't want to pretend like I know any more than I do. This is not my forte, but I do keep up a little bit.
The only time
I'm sorry, I mean, talk over.
I can think of right now that they have gotten, I think, a little too big with their numbers is, like I said earlier, with the 3DS, where I think they got a little too giddy. Where they were like, oh, a new, the DS sold great, so let's put this out at like an insane price point of $250, and then they put it out later at like $175 because no one bought it when it was at $250, and that's sparked the ambassador program and all that stuff. But my question is, do you think that'll happen with the Switch too? Like, do you think they'll put it out at $500
and then have to drop it real fast?
Yeah, or something like that.
That's what happened to the PS3. That's exactly what happened to the PS3. They launched it too high of a price, and then they got scared and they had to drop it after people balked.
Well, and then there's also the question about whether there's any like supply chain issues or shortages and stuff, because I don't know the ins and outs of that right now at the moment, but I do know that it would be weird. Let me say this real quick. If the Switch came out at too high of a price, if the Switch 2 came out too high of a price point, 6 months later they had to drop it, while their competition has been raising their prices back up further to where they were in the first place. I don't know if you guys know about that, but I think both correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think both Microsoft and Sony has done this now, where they've increased the prices of their consoles.
Yeah, I actually don't know.
So I don't think this will happen, but because of that, Nintendo could use that as a strategy where they put it out at too high on purpose and then drop it, while their competitors are raising their prices.
Yeah, maybe.
So I had a question for you guys. This is so in the game of wild speculation, can we make a prediction that could be complete? What's your most completely ridiculous prediction for the Switch 2? Something that's just insane.
Well, I already said play with your feet.
That's, well, I'm trying to think.
I gotta get through this list, Aaron.
Wii Fit Switch. I don't know. We got Switch Sports. So.
I really think it's gonna basically just be what the Pro was supposed to be, but maybe with VR. Like, yeah. I guess this isn't like insanely wild or anything, Aaron. But the first thing that comes to mind is a VR headset in the box.
Yeah. Okay. I had something that
you play with your feet.
And we'll talk about specs and stuff later. But since we're talking about like, maybe having a digital only console and having one with,
physical games.
Yeah. Do you think they'll still do cartridges?
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Nintendo is gonna be the first company to draw that line in the sand. I would be shocked if they did that.
How is that gonna work with PS5 type graphics though? Like, I don't even know how they do that.
Oh, I do. It'll be like the other systems now, where the whole game won't be on the cartridge anymore. True. And that's already what third parties are doing. Like most big, especially AAA stuff, most of that you can't have it all on the cartridge. So Nintendo's first party stuff, it's almost all actually on the cartridge.
Which is actually...
even if you do updates, but with something like, say, the Arkham release that just happened, you've got Arkham Asylum on the thing, and the other two you have to download.
Which is actually crazy because what's really funny is the Nintendo cartridges, like the NES ones, the first party games have like half of the cartridge, like they actually be there, and then the rest is just empty. And then
even though it's that small,
but with third party games, it's the whole thing.
I didn't know that.
And some of the companies don't even have it all on the cartridge. That's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Passing the savings on to you. Tears of the Kingdom was a 40 gigabyte. I think it's 40 gigabytes. I don't know if that's really, that's all on the cartridge.
That's pretty crazy.
40 gigabytes. Yeah.
Jason,
okay, so I wanted to throw out my wild speculation.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Nintendo is going to revive some lost IPs of theirs, and we're going to get
Chibi
Radar
Robo?
Scope 2. No, not Chibi Robo. That would be cool too. We're going to go back to the 80s. We're going to go back to the late 70s and the early 80s. We're going to get Sheriff 2. We're going to get Radar Scope 2. We're going to get Sky Skipper 2. Get excited.
No.
Gyromite and Stack Up 2.
Stack Up 2, yes.
Stack Up 2, yes.
Stack
I mean,
up.
they could do Wild Gunman 2. I mean, they could. That.
I mean, it was in Back to the Future too. It's
right.
Immortal. So.
Yeah.
Jason, did you have a wild speculation thing?
I did. It was discs.
Oh.
Discs.
Putting
I don't
discs.
know if they're gonna go back to discs.
I don't think they'll
going
do
back
that.
to like at least doing the GameCube thing.
I was gonna say Sony, right? With the PSP, they have their own special UMD format.
Yep.
But I don't think anyone's gonna do discs again for handhelds.
Not for portable.
Right.
No, it's not a great idea.
No, I mean, if you're sitting on a bus and it bounces up and down, I mean, you scratch the thing while you're walking around with it, like.
Hey, it's nostalgic. Remember when we had CD players and they would always skip? It's just like the old days.
That's true. They're all about the retro throwback right now. They might intentionally make things suck so that people can relive the past.
Yeah.
I would love for them to just Nintendo out of nowhere
Nintendo
release an
Record Player.
actual expansion for the Super Nintendo that adds CD technology. Just do it. Come on, Nintendo. You can still do it.
That would be.
And
really
that will be
funny.
our Switch
That
2.
would be really funny.
So let me before I get back to this list, which we're not real far into, but we'll finish it. Aaron,
Yes.
I want to go ahead and do this now to piggyback off of the hilarious sequels that you just suggested. What do you guys realistically, though, so in all seriousness, what is your one big prediction for a likely launch title, or if you're not adventurous enough to do that, something in the first year, apart
Metroid Prime
from
4.
the Metroid 4 idea, or Metroid Prime 4 idea?
Aside from that.
Aside
Okay,
from that.
I'll let Jason go first, and I'll think of another.
Okay, so, I don't know if they're my big two things are not even any sort of 1-2 Switch or Wii Sports.
Honestly, and
I don't think.
And Aaron, I don't mean to be contrary. I don't think they're going to do that kind of thing.
I don't
for
think
this,
they will either.
because I think again this is basically going to be just a bigger Switch. There'd be no reason to do it because they don't need
There'd
to
be no
teach you how to use it.
So, I think
They
it's
still
going
want a
to be-
casual market, though. They still... Nintendo's never going to fully abandon their casual.
But the casual market is buying the Switch. They don't need to sell this newer. This console, at least in its first couple of years, is going to be a lot more about the diehard base they've already got. And part of the reason that a lot of people think it'll come out this year, including me, is because their numbers have been waning some. Because most everybody that wants a Switch has one. So, like, it is finally the time for them to put another one out.
Yeah. So, I have three ideas. Okay. The first one's a little out there.
Were you serious the other day when you said Pilot Wings?
Yes. So,
Oh,
Pilot Wings.
okay.
I'd be down for that.
Pilot Wings Switch would be awesome. Actually, 4 ideas. Pilot Wings
Right now,
Switch
I'd
would be
play it.
awesome. And they have done Pilot Wings for launch titles for lots of systems, including the Super Nintendo, the 64, and the 3DS. So they could do it for the Switch too. They could. They probably won't.
Okay, but sorry, can I add to that?
Yeah.
If they do VR at launch, that is likely.
True. Yeah.
Pilot Wings VR makes so
Yeah,
much
it
sense.
does. So, Mario Kart 9 is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's...
And that would be a coup. To open with a Mario Kart game
Yeah.
would be a really, really smart
And
opening volley, yeah.
this will not be a launch title. I know it won't, because they will do Mario Kart first, and then I really hope it's in the first or second year. But a new F-Zero. I'm sorry, they're
Hold out.
Well,
Hold out hope, right?
well, because of F-Zero 99, a lot of people think that they're finally going to give us
I
another one.
think they will.
Hope.
And then a big one that I don't think either of you guys have thought of, which I think is a big one, a new Animal Crossing.
Mother 4.
No, I actually did think about Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing.
I hadn't gotten to it yet. That was...
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
sorry.
I was actually thinking about that one. That's a good one, though.
Well, Animal
I
Crossing
think,
was a system seller for the Switch.
Animal Crossing is the number 1, or is the number 2 for Switch.
Number 1's Mario Kart, right?
Yeah, number 1's Mario Kart. It used to be number 1, but now it's number 2. If they start with Animal Crossing, that's
smart.
and that'll push.
I couldn't care
handheld.
less, but that's smart.
It is, and they haven't made a new Animal Crossing since New Horizons, so it could happen.
That Animal Crossing Switch sold really well. Like, not just the game, but like the Switch they made with the pattern on it. Like,
Yeah, so those are my big 3.
So my prediction
Pilot
is they're going to have a new Smash game, but it's going to be like the new Street Fighter, where there's a single-player mode where it's an open-world game. That's my prediction.
Wait, they did that with Street Fighter?
Yeah, they did. Street Fighter 6.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Street
that.
Fighter has an open-world mode. I haven't gotten to play it yet, but the last Street Fighter game has a seriously open-world game in the single
I
player.
really
campaign.
want
That's
it.
cool.
I really want that game.
Now I want to buy that.
Yeah, I still really want that game. I just don't care about Street Fighter.
I'm not a big Street Fighter person either, but I just want to know what that looks like. I can't even imagine it.
That game
So my
looks
other
so good,
thing
though.
that I want to happen is
Yeah.
I would love for Sega to actually put a Yakuza game or Like a Dragon game out on the new Switch, because they totally missed out on the Switch.
Yeah.
The last time they put a Yakuza game out on a Nintendo console was the Wii U, and only in Japan.
Was that 0? What was that?
No, it was Yakuza 1 and 2 HD, or Like a Dragon 1 and 2 HD. Yeah, they were basically HD versions of the original Yakuza games on the PS2, not to be confused with the remakes of 1 and 2 that Sega made later. But I would love for a Yakuza game to come out on this next hardware, because that would be the perfect game to play portable. Because I don't know, I get on one of those games and honestly I just go and play mini games, or go play, I think one of the latest ones you can go literally play like Virtual Fighter.
Did you know about
6
them?
or something
I
like
did.
that. It's great.
So
that I feel like needs to come to the new Switch.
I'm legitimately kind of shocked that they didn't do that on the Switch.
Yeah, I think they could have put like Yakuza 0 and it would have sold like hotcakes.
Did they have a Persona on Switch?
Yeah.
Nope. All the Personas are on Switch now.
Okay.
They took a while, but now you can play
I think, right?
a lot of the Persona games.
Well, I
on
mean,
Switch.
I don't know anything
think
about Persona. I just know that that's the one thing Sega has that still
all
sells
the
really well.
all
so.
the main titles, right?
Yeah,
I
so I
know-
know
I'm trying-
3.
Trying to pretend like I
4
know
and
anything
5.
about Persona, but
I
they
like
haven't
them.
put out
I've
like
played them.
I don't know, anything crazy like Persona 3 Portable, or
So
You brought up a good point, which is they put out a Shin Megami Tensei game exclusively on the Switch, like a mainline
Oh, really?
title. Like I think it was 4 or 5. I think 5, and I could totally see them putting out 6 on the Switch too. I would bet on it.
Speaking of Shinigami, can I
Kingdom
get a
Hearts
good
4.
Death Note game, please? Can
Ooh.
somebody please make me a Death Note game? That'd be great. Anyway, sorry, that's just an aside.
Well, that reminds
That's
me
not
of
my
my-
prediction. My prediction is
But
not
based
a...
on the live-action Netflix show,
No,
right?
yes,
no,
of
no,
course.
no.
We need Defoe to come in and voice Ryuk in the launch title Death Note game. That's my prediction.
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. So Aaron, I think I'll throw out a couple real quick.
Yeah.
It's tough for me because I think you guys I think it's likely that one of the things you guys said will be in there, and I think Mario Kart would be the smartest thing they could do. But it's hard not to go to like wishful thinking places,
Yeah.
as opposed to what we think will actually happen, and that's like I think you guys were more pragmatic than me. I'm kind of, or at least Jason was. I'm kind of I struggling, and I just thought stuff I want to see. I want Switch Wave Race.
Oh
And
yeah.
Here's
Wave
the thing.
Race would be
Here's
great.
the thing. That was one of the like 2 GameCube releases, launch titles.
Yeah.
So
But they've never done.
it didn't.
But so here's the thing. I'm having a hard time not going to 64 real hard, like when we talked about help me out. You had a prediction for the launch title.
Pilot Wings.
Pilot Wings, thank you.
Pilot Wings.
But
It's like what?
but the Switch. Sorry, we have so many different game titles floating around. The Switch has, with the new addition to the online service, turned into a portable Nintendo 64. And they've been doing really well with that, and people love that about it. And I've been finding myself playing with it a lot more than I expected I would. Just the novelty.
Why they need to do GameCube?
So that's one thing I was gonna say is I think it's possible. I'm glad. Thank you for segueing me. I think it's possible that the Switch 2 launches with a new system on top of what they already have with the online, assuming that you get all of that with it and they don't make you start over. And we don't know for sure if that's going to happen, if that's part of the backwards compatibility, but I could see it launching with GameCube. And that would be crazy, and that would be really cool if they do that. But the other thing I was going to say is, as far as launch titles go, now that we know that they have the rights to, and they're able to do it with the 64 release and the Xbox release, is it possible that we could get a ground-up remake finally of GoldenEye?
GoldenEye, yeah.
Because that would be a smart launch title.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, that would be good. But isn't I guess it doesn't matter as much now, but
that actually
hold on.
I'm thinking, isn't Rare still Microsoft exclusive?
Yeah, it is.
I know Microsoft's been more open, and they've talked about possibly putting their games somehow on something like the
They've been trying
Switch.
to partner with Nintendo on stuff, but what were you going to say?
Here's the thing. Rare just announced they're putting out they're working on a new release for a new sequel for an old Rare game. We don't know what.
Ooh.
People are
Wrapped by the Ghoulies. Watch out.
People are saying maybe Banjo-Kazooie, and then everyone else
Killer
is like,
Instinct.
and then so most people are saying, oh, Banjo-Kazooie, and then everyone else is
I
saying
hope
Conquer.
not.
But
Go somewhere else.
Yeah.
There's already too much Kazooie.
well,
There's
no.
Banjo-Kazooie.
I think Conquer
there's
is more likely, though.
Ukulele.
Conquer-
I say go a different direction.
But there hasn't been a Banjo-Kazooie, like an actual Banjo-Kazooie game since 2008, to be fair.
Yeah, but I mean, Rare has so much history.
They do.
Even before they were called Rare, like they really could dig even deeper than that. That's like, for me, that's like the low-hanging fruit to go to Banjo-Kazooie.
But on a selfish note, I want Killer Instinct on a portable console, and I also want
Conquer.
This is neither here nor there, but I also finally want Injustice on Switch. And I don't think I'm ever gonna get that, but it really bugs me that I can't play that on Switch. Anyway, okay, let's go to let's try to blow down the rest of these. So display is not an aspect that I care as much about. If I can see it and the frame rate is fine, I don't really care about OLED and all of that. But people are, especially because I don't play handheld that much. I tend to connect to the TV more often, and I'll take it with me some. But
OLED looks really nice, though.
I have heard that, and I haven't really played with it, so maybe I would be a convert if I got that. But people are speculating that maybe it'll come out with a straight up OLED in the first place. Who knows? This is all speculative. So there's obviously, but there's a lot of. But I don't know if there's even any specific leaks about this yet. This is suggesting that it could just be an LCD panel, or it could be OLED. Who knows?
What if they do?
And then there's some specs listed as possible things that I'm not going to get into, but you can read that there on your screen. Anyway, go ahead.
What if they do the PS Vita route and they have the touchscreen in the back, and that's their big thing?
Oh man, they wouldn't go backwards.
That's the gimmick.
It was cool when Vita did it, but there were only 4 games that used it. Uncharted used it. I think Tearaway used it. Hardly any games used it.
So, speaking of the Joy-Con drift thing that Aaron brought up earlier, so this says, previously a leak centering around new Joy-Con controllers surfaced, which indicated that the Switch 2 would have an updated controller design. If they don't, everybody riots and burns Nintendo to the ground.
Right.
You're crazy if you don't. They were crazy for not changing it 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Interesting Switch 2 news. Nintendo has patented a new controller design that seems to include magnetic Hall effect analog sticks. No guarantees, but if this is for Switch 2, this should end analog stick drift issues next gen. It's just nuts that it was ever a problem.
Yeah.
Here's something I don't like. I don't like playing 2D games handheld using that. And I know why. It's because of the design of the Switch, but I don't like playing
If
with the buttons as the D-pad.
I don't
It
like it
annoys
either.
me to
if
no
the
end.
new Joy-Cons
It
or
would be
whatever,
so nice if they make a Joy-Con that at least you could replace it with. Like,
I
that'd
mean,
be cool.
they do. But
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Is it third party?
Yeah, it's just not perfect. Like
It's
the
not perfect.
replacements,
Um,
they kind of lock you out of using certain features if you do that.
but if that doesn't have a D-pad, I'm like, and also it. So, I like my perfect D-pads, right? I like the Super Nintendo D-pad, and that's it, right? If my D-pad's too small, I don't like using it.
Oh,
If
so
my
you don't like the
D-pad
GameCube D-pad?
No.
Okay.
What about the Dreamcast D-pad, which cut glass?
Yeah, and
That thing was kind of rubbery.
and like
It had sharp edges, is what I remember.
the D-pad that some
Oh,
Switch
and there's
controllers
different
have.
ones too, so I'm thinking of a different one probably.
The D-pad that some Switch controllers have, where it's like the circle and it goes around, like kind of like the Genesis controller. I'm not the biggest fan of that either, just because it's really like hard to maneuver around like a really hard like platformer.
Well, I hate to break this to you, but now that you've said that, you're never going to be invited on Genesis Gems.
Oh man,
It's just-
Well, I was going to show
Okay,
you real
but-
quick on the screen.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
horrible Model 1 Sega Saturn controllers.
Yep.
Were the worst. These D-pads are terrible.
They're terrible.
Oh.
Also, do you know how many of those I went through on my Sega Saturn? Like, I've bought that controller like 4 times.
Yeah, Model 2 controllers are great.
Yep.
Those are some of my favorite controllers, but the Model 1 controllers,
They suck.
terrible.
No, that
They
was rough.
break really easily.
Okay, let's get back to this. Specifications and next-gen experiences. We previously, again, I'm reading this article, previously heard that Switch 2 will feature PS5-level visuals and performance. The leaker then stated its source had seen Final Fantasy VII running on the Switch 2 with impressive visual quality. Here we speculated that Switch 2 could feature PS5-level visuals, but perhaps not the same level of fidelity. I think that's likely. But given the portable form factor it is limited to, it's tough to expect 4K level gaming from the next Switch. Despite all this, which I don't think you gotta have, considering that people play it more as a handheld than anything. Despite all this, the new console should feature highly improved graphics. Moreover, you think, a higher resolution is achievable through AI upscaling too, notably a rumored feature. And then it says it's supposed to feature a new NVIDIA-based chip, T239, but the final specs have not been confirmed. Switch 2 will feature a new NVIDIA-based processor with improved performance and efficiency.
Is that the one on the PS5?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up because I'm not a specs guy.
Me neither.
See, I see this feature right here where it says support for NVIDIA DLSS.
Yes.
Deep learning super sampling. So I've got that feature turned on my laptop, and it works great when I've got my laptop basically hooked up to my pinball machine over there, and I want to play pinball games. I can crank up the resolution to like 4K, and with that DLSS, even though I don't have a 4K display, I have like a 2K display. It can actually take a 4K output and then bring it down to what my display can do, which is only 2K. So if they're doing that technology, that's very cool.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, and there's been a lot of talk that like it might still just run at 720 on the in handheld mode, but if the screen is nice enough, then it won't be that noticeable. So I don't know. But like I said, I'm not in all the specs with that, so I'm not the right person to talk to.
No, I mean, go to Digital Foundry. That's the place to go. Go watch their videos if you want like the really nitty gritty behind the scenes on specs.
We ain't the people for that. I don't know. I'll finally look at the OLED at some point and get back to you. But I already own 3 Switches. I don't know if I'm ever gonna get one of those.
OLED is just a really nice picture. That's what I remember from having a an OLED Vita was just like it felt ahead of its time.
Yeah, because they didn't improve
Was there-
the chip at all with that. Like it's
No,
not
no.
A Pro Switch or anything.
Was there a Vita that didn't have an OLED screen? Didn't they all
Yeah.
have OLED?
They released a cheaper version eventually that was non-OLED, but all of the original
I didn't know
Vitas were OLED.
Reading this again, the storage should be upgraded greatly on the new Switch since the sizes of games have increased dramatically.
Yeah.
It should.
It should.
Doesn't mean it will. We could also see expandable storage support in the Switch 2 as we saw on Switch 1.
I don't know why it can't just have like a terabyte. Like, I don't.
It'd be very silly if it didn't have that. No, I speculate that it will have the same or worse internal storage, and that you'll be forced to buy a $50 to $100 SD card in the first place to run much of anything. That's my speculation. I don't think they're going to help us out with that at all.
No, I think it's going to be the same exact problem. It's not going to be as bad as the Vita's problem, which was, here's a proprietary memory card you can only buy from Sony. That was the worst.
Yeah.
It was terrible. Oh, okay. So here's something I just read on the page. I think we might have missed, which was that Nintendo. There's a rumor that they're going to team up with Sega and release a Dreamcast 2.
That's not in here. No, that's not. I think you were just reading comments from my live audience that have pipe dreams about things like a Sega Saturn 2 and a Dreamcast 2. No, you'll never see Sega get back into the hardware game beyond.
No, I don't think so either. You're right.
Beyond maybe more retro stuff, and even then, like the mini fad is kind of come and gone. It feels like. I think we might occasionally see another one of those here and there, but it's not going to be the big deal that it was, especially with Switch offering so much retro like cloud gaming and that kind of thing, and with Nintendo just not selling theirs anymore. Those were the ones the really popular ones that sold really well. Like the Genesis one did fine, I'm sure, but there's no way it sold as well as the NES and the SNES.
No, neither did the Turbo Mini or the Sega Mini 2.
Which is awesome, but it's an import, so I mean,
yeah,
that wasn't even sold in stores over here, so it's hard to tell.
No, you had to buy it off of Amazon.
Yep.
If you want to get it here.
And I've got one, and it's awesome. But
cool. It has Sega CD games on it, doesn't it?
It does. Mm-hmm. And it's moddable just like the other ones, so you can get them to run, and very easily you can get them to run Under the Sun with an emulator, but I do mod mine, but I don't like to put games on them that don't go with the console just because it feels weird in my brain. But if you wanted to, you could put Genesis games on the Super Nintendo and then play Genesis games with a Super Nintendo controller, which is kind of a fun novelty. But
it is.
You could also do the same thing with the Retron 5 with the cartridges. But anyway, but I digress.
I digress. Was there anything else in this article we missed?
Yeah, just one or two more things. So speaking of the battery, Nintendo has offered the same 9 hours of battery on its original Switch and OLED, but battery life drops significantly with heavy gaming scenarios. Battery life on the Switch is really not very good. And this says, unfortunately, there's a little word on that, so we'll have to wait and see. So we have no even rumors yet about battery life with it. And I'll be shocked if they can increase that by very much with a better processor.
I don't know how they would be able to do that, to be honest. I mean, chips get better all the time, but it looks like the rumor is they're partnering with NVIDIA again, right?
Yeah.
And here's what I do remember with the Switch is that if I played a taxing game like Divinity 2, the fan was constantly blowing when I was playing that game. Any game that's like, gonna tax the system quite a bit, your battery life is going to shrink dramatically. Like it's not. I could see that happening again, where this game's gonna run great, but you're probably gonna have less battery life just because that's just the nature of things.
Yeah, there's really no way around it. And that's not a huge deal to me because again, just me personally, on a selfish note, because I don't take mine out, around all that
Yeah.
much. I tend to plug into the TV and into my new uh arcade machine that is compatible with Switch. So it's not that big of a deal to me. And these days, it's a lot easier to find plugins when you're out and about. So even if you're, low on battery, a lot of places you go, you can still plug in. So I just hope, we didn't talk about this. I hope the kickstand is better.
Oh, yeah, mine's broken. My kids broke the kickstand on mine like a year in.
Yeah, it sucks.
Which was yeah. Oh,
And
I
the
was going to show
OLED's
you
got a
something.
nicer
One of my
one,
favorite
but
Switch accessories. I
yeah,
really do hope that people still make Tate mode games. So I hope that games come out for the Switch 2 that utilize the Switch's ability to go vertical, because there are some pretty cool games that you can use this thing called a flip grip. Things like Downwell, some pinball games, anything that's like a vertical shooter. You can put your Switch controllers into this. If they're still doing that, if they have detachable Joy-Con type things,
yeah.
I would. This thing was pretty cool.
Now, let
So
me
I would
ask
love
you
to see.
how you feel about that. We should back off a little bit and talk about some broader stuff like that that I didn't even think about. Will they get away from Joy-Cons? Because honestly,
Hmm.
you don't need them, in my personal humble
Mm,
opinion. I don't love Joy-Cons. I've gotten very much away from them. Because okay, so
I
again,
think you do.
I don't
I
play
think you do.
portable a lot. But
Yeah,
what I
I know why you do. Here's the
yeah,
explanation of why. They have too many first-party titles that use motion controls. So and they have like
okay, that's
alternate
true.
control schemes, but think about like Mario Odyssey, or think about what was another one? Well, yeah, like 1-2 switch. Anything that uses
See,
some
I play
sort of
almost
motion control,
nothing
or
that
like
uses motion control
Mario
so I
Galaxy.
forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah, so
that's
there's
true.
still certain games where you have to detach the Joy Cons to do motion-based things, and maybe they do, but then I think if they did that completely, they'd have to basically start fresh, and they
Well,
would
you
lack
just
that backwards compatibility.
no, no, you're right. It'll be just like the Wii, where they'll have to use them if they have backwards compatibility. Because I could see them with the next iteration not using the motion control gimmick at all anymore.
Oh, making it optional where you could connect via like Bluetooth or something.
Well, here's the thing.
Um,
So
your old Joy Cons.
yeah, I didn't even think about that. They could do that, but like you could still make it, and I'm not even saying this is what they should do, but if they got totally away from the motion control thing, they could make basically a Switch Lite that docks. So it would be a handheld that had built-in controllers, and then you could use wireless pro controllers and wired into the dock. I could see that. And it would be cool, even if they do Joy-Cons, if you had a light version that still docked. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I missed out on the light. I actually did want one of those, but the thing that really, yeah, I really wish that you could hook it up to a TV. That's the only thing that ever kept me from getting one.
Well, the reason I got one was because my son Freddie, who's 9 now, but when he was 6 or 7, I like he was playing a lot of stuff by himself all the time and always in handheld mode. And we had the Joy-Con drift problem, and it was kind of obnoxious, and he basically had to put the system on his lap and play with like a wireless pro controller. So we got the Switch Lite, and eventually it also developed Joy-Con drift. So when any of the kids use it, they still have to, without a kickstand, put it on their lap and play with a pro controller.
Oh,
And that's
yeah,
why I'm
that's
so on about
annoying.
the Joy-Con drift thing, and can't believe that they used the same sticks in those systems. And like you can take the thing apart and replace the stick, but I haven't done that yet.
I have had to do that. I did that once, and I feel like I need to go do it again.
Oh no!
I'm having some mild drift issues again.
That sucks. We'll go ahead and wrap up here in a minute. What's up?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, the Switch stands suck, and the
not missing a beat. Love it.
Until the OLED, which I don't know if I know it's different. I don't know how good it is compared to the original, because the original Switch stand would break, and you couldn't, like, we're having a problem with it earlier, where it I don't remember what it was, but it's on one side and it's not on the whole thing, and it just leads to problems.
And it's, it's magnetic, it pops off easily. The other thing is they need to change where the charging port is,
right.
Because you can't plug it in. This is such a rookie mistake. You can't plug it in and set it up with a kickstand at the same time. Why on earth is it made like that?
No idea. That was probably just like the afterthought, right? When they engineered it, they threw in so many features, and then that was probably like the thing. They're like, oh, I guess we have to do this. I was gonna say this was something.
Yeah.
Jason, you missed, which is that I have a flip grip, and one of the cooler features of this, which I think would be cool if Nintendo adopted, is that in the vertical mode you can use it with its own kickstand, which literally it comes with a card, but you can use something like this isn't a credit card. I'm not going to show that on the screen, but you can put this.
Don't leave home without it.
It actually works as a stand, so that's genius to me. Like if you could add something like that, where it's like, oh, just use any old card, and it'll prop it up. Pretty cool.
That is cool. Okay, so as we're wrapping up here, first of all, are there any big aspects that really matter to you guys that were not in that article and that we didn't talk about?
I don't think so. I don't know, the big, like, things, or like the big, like, game series that I would want to see them make a sequel to, or not me specifically, because I don't play a lot of those games. But they have recently gotten sequels on the Switch, which means that they probably won't get sequels until, like, the third year, right?
Yeah. So, like, what?
Hickman, Splatoon, stuff like that.
Hey, that rhymes with my last name.
That's true. Aaron, see, you shouldn't have said that. I'm gonna start calling you that. Yeah, I'm gonna call him Aaron Pickman from now on.
Fantastic.
It's like, I'm never coming on your channel again.
No.
So we didn't talk about this earlier. Considering how long it's been since Odyssey came out, is it possible it launches with a 3D Mario?
We know that
I'm sorry, what did you say, Aaron?
I was just said, no, I agree with you. There was only one 3D Mario of note besides Bowser's Fury, which was just an upgrade of an existing 3D Mario game.
Right.
Yeah, it's plausible.
It's totally plausible.
And I know that they're working on one, so...
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Does your uncle work at Nintendo?
Yes. No.
Who is your leaking source?
It's he played the 1995
your uncle?
The August 15th, or is it August 15th? Why am I not remembering this date?
He played the Mario 64 prototype on Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
what are we talking about?
95.
Okay.
Don't look it up.
Somebody without a name named Channel says Pokemon at launch.
Yeah.
Okay,
we should talk about that because
it's on my shirt.
Well, and also because it's Nintendo's main system is portable now, and Pokemon's always been a big part of portable. And they did the Pikachu like Let's Go Pikachu thing, I think in the first or second year.
Yeah.
And then they had Arceus, which kind of people were frustrated because it was not well optimized for the Switch. I think they could do a redo or release a sequel to those
Yeah.
that
And
fixes
then
many of
also
those
Scarlet and
issues.
Violet, which also had that problem.
Yeah.
I think a Pokemon game would be good. They just have to work on it before putting it out. I think.
Oh, I know that was a disaster last time. Everybody was freaking out about how not finished
Also,
that was.
I think they're running
Or
out
how
of...
not finished, but just how lazy they felt like it was. Now, I'm not throwing shade at it because I didn't play it, but
me neither.
I'm not a Pokemon guy.
I think they're running out of colors, and I think they're running out of stones that they can name their Pokemon games off of. So I mean, because the last one was Scarlet and Violet. Those are very specific colors.
I don't know. It sounds cool though. I think it's time for Pokemon Plaid.
Pokemon Plaid.
I think we need that. I think we need polka dot Pokemon.
Pokemon Chevron.
Chevron. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Or you can start doing it like Crayola Crown colors. Where you got like Pokemon macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah. And mauve and chartreuse.
Pokemon chartreuse.
Yes.
Actually, that's awesome.
So
You
good.
heard here first.
Plush EX says, surprised you guys didn't talk about that. Pokemon usually has games for the end of a system.
True.
I always have to kind of remind myself that the Switch is arguably primarily a handheld. I mean, it's not fair to say that. It's both.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like, there's some consumers play it more as one than the other, and I'm just not a handheld guy. So I don't think about it as much as a handheld.
Here's the thing with Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee.
Aaron, are you aware that I didn't own a handheld until the DS?
Really?
Yeah, I didn't grow up with handhelds. I always wanted a Game Gear, but I didn't.
You have to go to a friend's house to play them, right?
That's it. Well, and I didn't all that much. Like, I liked... I think the problem is I always had kind of poor eyesight, and I just didn't like looking at a small screen. I think that was a lot of it.
Oh, and the Game Gear can give you eye strain.
Direct light.
And I don't know, I'm talking too much about my own foibles, but like I get motion sickness in cars, and so I didn't want to take a Game Boy with me on the road. So like I never asked my parents for a handheld.
No, that makes sense. I do think it's cool how the portable ecosystem has kind of migrated over to the Switch. And we kind of get the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
So like we do get all of the Pokemon games except for the ones on phones are on Switch. So
Well, is that true?
yeah, I mean after the 3DS, right? Now it's the Switch, and then you've got whatever's on mobile or tablets, right?
Yeah, but I mean, not every Pokemon game is on Switch. Like, is that...
No,
I don't know
I'm
what you're
saying that anything after the 3DS. I'm not saying every...
Right, okay.
Every Pokemon game out there that's ever been made. Because, like, you go into, like, the Switch... Like, if I go into the Game Boy stuff, the only one you can play on there is
the
trading card
TCG,
game.
which is, like...
Hilarious.
Which I have put way too many hours in.
I like it. Yeah, I think it's cool, but it's, like, it's funny that they wouldn't put, like, a mainline Pokemon title on that service.
Yeah.
Robert, I wasn't talking about driving while playing a Game Boy. I mean, like, when I was a kid,
Oh my
we'd go on
gosh!
road trips. I couldn't sit in the back seat and play a Game Boy. I'd get a headache or I'd want to throw up.
Everyone keeps doing this. It's really funny.
Doing what?
Where they're like, oh,
Driving while playing a game?
Dad is talking about being in the car. That means he's talking about driving.
You're
the
right.
car.
Yes.
That comes up
It
a
comes
weird
up
amount.
way too much.
It's like, oh, you got to stop making videos while you're driving. No, I wasn't. I was in the passenger seat while streaming
Yeah,
on
what
my
are-
phone.
What are two things that go well together for Pokemon?
It's okay. I'm so
I
dangerous.
don't know.
Anyway, okay, and then the other question I want to ask you guys before we end off, Aaron's like, why are we still talking? Do you guys, okay, what is the big thing that will make you guys, like, buy that system? Like, are you likely to wait unless a certain thing happens with it? Like, what is that thing?
It's Mario Kart
I think-
9.
It's what?
It's Mario Kart 9.
Yeah.
Once that comes out.
I love Mario Kart, but I don't think that would be the system seller for me.
Or a new 3D Mario.
I think it would be a big new Dragon Quest game for me. Or it would be. No, I'm honest. It would be some big role playing game. Because I mean the Zeldas are already out there; those are amazing. But I love RPGs, and so I think if they put a new like exclusive Dragon Quest of some sort, I'd get it on there.
I can't play RPGs for the life of me. I could play Pokemon, but that's about it.
Oh, really? Like attention
Yeah.
span, or is it just like the turn-based ones like Dragon Quest? Or is it just like in general?
So I'm good with turn-based. And I mean I can play stuff. I just get stuck. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
And it's
some
just
games are kind of obtuse.
it gets like, and I mean I've played a little like Undertale and stuff, right?
Okay.
And I've played I'm a big fan of I need to play more Final Fantasy because I played the first one and really enjoyed it, but that's the
like
first
the
game.
very first
yeah,
one.
yeah, NES.
NES?
But
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And like Kingdom Hearts and stuff.
Kingdom Hearts I need to play more.
Yeah, just don't try understanding the story to that one. It doesn't make any sense.
Channel says backwards compatibility and return of Virtual Console would be nice. Mark my words, you're never going to see that.
No.
Like, everything is going in such a subscription direction. Like, as soon as Nintendo started charging for their online, I was like, you're never going to see Virtual Console again.
Right.
Yeah, Nintendo is really good about making you pay over and over and over again for the same game.
Well, and to be fair,
They're really good at it.
They are, but let's not single them out because they ain't the only ones. I mean, we're to a place now where all of these companies want to make you rebuy your favorite games over and over again. And what sucks about it is I'm enticed about it much of the time, just like everybody else is, right? Like, when you get a really nice compilation of a bunch of games that are all upscaled or rebuilt from the ground up, it is exciting. And for me, it's all about, again, consolidation. It's all about being able to play a bunch of stuff in the same place, which is why I need this new Switch console to be backwards compatible, or there's no way I'm going to care until there's like 4 or 5 games that I just absolutely can't live without. And again, even then, I'm not going to be enticed to buy 2 or 3 of them like I did with the Switch. Because like our family, and I've got a big family, I've got 6 kids, and they don't all play video games yet. But my family all plays Switch, the ones that play video games now, anyway, so much that we've got to have one upstairs and one downstairs.
Right.
Just so that everybody's able to play. And like we've got the light that a person can play by themselves, and then we've got the one that I've got dedicated now for this arcade machine I've got, and then we've got the one that lives upstairs. I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to do it right away, obviously, regardless, but like in the lifespan of that new system, I will never do that again.
Right.
And I might not even, with this really, until too many things come out that we're all wanting to play at the same time, right? But if it's not backwards compatible, I'll have the one for the couple of games we're going to play all the time. But beyond that, like...
Here was my thought, which was that I have 2 PS4s. I have a Switch, but as far as the PS4s, we've got one in the living room and one in my office. And I haven't gotten a PS5 yet. Why? Because I still feel like there are not enough games to really make me make that jump for the price point.
Same here.
I don't feel like the leap in technology is really that far. But what is enticing, if the price point was ever right in my brain, is the fact that it's backwards compatible and you can take a lot of these PS4 games and they run better. That has always been kind of it's kind of been a big deal. When I can do that, that's great. So if this next Switch does that, I think it would be more dramatic, to be honest, if they were able to do that with the Switch 2, just because there were so many games where I would play them on the Switch and I'm more playing it on that console for the convenience than anything, because
That's right.
9 times out of 10 I'm having to play it in portable mode because someone's using one of our TVs. So I would love backwards compatibility, because I think certain games just really suffered from bits of slowdown. And so, I don't know. That would be great.
I'm curious to see if there is a mass exodus with people if it's not backwards compatible. I wonder how hard that hits that system. And I worry that it won't really hit it that hard. And honestly, Aaron, like I don't mean to be cynical or whatever, but like Nintendo, as cynical as that company can be, is kind of my last vestige with video games. I kind of don't care about gaming in general anymore. You know, with some exceptions, like there's some stuff that's going to come out on the next gen consoles that have me more interested in maybe finally getting one, like if the new Jurassic Park game is any good and stuff like that. But by and large, I'm kind of done with it. I'm kind of just in a retro place, and most of the stuff I like to play is still in that kind of vein anyway. And so if Nintendo starts, and going back to what we were talking about earlier, this is kind of my big point with all of this. If Nintendo starts acting too much more like the other big two right now, I'm kind of out. I'm kind of good. Like, I've got so much cool stuff to play on my Switch that I kind of don't need anything else right now.
Yeah.
Like, they've got to make me feel like I need a thing I didn't even know I needed. That's where I'm at with it. And my worry is, a few years down the line, they'll shut down the online for the Switch because they didn't go backwards compatible, and then you have to worry about not being able to re-download things if you have an SD card that gets corrupted or anything like that. And I haven't been able to buy everything physical. And so, I don't know, that whole thing just kind of makes me sad. So it really needs to be backwards compatible, or I'm going to have a hard time not wanting to jump ship.
Yeah, that makes sense.
First world problems.
Right. My just one quick aside.
Yeah.
A older brother stopped buying Nintendo consoles because he kept on having to send in his Wii. And he really got tired of that, it breaking down, and he got frustrated with the customer service at the time. He's like, I'm never buying a Nintendo console again. And then at some point he got a Switch, so he ate his words. So
somebody earlier, I'm glad you said that, because somebody earlier in the comments said you can send in your Joy-Cons. I'm like, I have to send in a whole system because I got Joy-Con drift on my Lite.
Yeah.
Channel says, I think they've got the stones to do no backwards compatibility. Animal Crossing Deluxe, Splatoon Deluxe, Zelda Deluxe.
No.
But I agree. Like
camera mode, extra camera mode.
like we said earlier, they absolutely could do that.
They could.
Teddy put it
6 on your Switch 2.
Say it again.
I said, Grand Theft Auto 6 on your Switch 2.
That someone said that
well,
earlier.
they'll do that. Teddy, $5 super chat. I want a game system that's just $1, and all the games are just a black screen. Call it Troll Box. Good one, Teddy.
Everyone,
thanks, buddy.
Everyone talks about like finding video games at dollar stores, and the only video game I've ever found at a dollar store was Mega Man 2.
No, I found one. It was that Knights of whatever it was called. I can't remember, but I bought it just on the principle of I found a $1 game. But yeah, it was a 3DS game.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I found a plug and play Mega Man 2.
Oh, nice.
At the dollar store. I didn't buy it because I can play Mega Man 2, but.
And then Channel says, even if he's really on about this, even if they do backwards compatibility, you're acting like they do the work to do upgrade patches. I mean, here's the thing. If they do full-on backwards compatibility, and I mean where you can put in the physical cartridges and all of the online stuff can be downloaded on that system, it'll all be in one pot, so I would assume that it would continue to like patches would continue to work on the old Switch for a lot longer than they would be if they don't do backwards compatibility. That's my hope, is that it's all in one big pot, and the Switch 2 is basically just a Switch, except there's some games it plays that the other Switch doesn't. But I'm afraid I'm not gonna get lucky enough to get it like that.
Yeah.
But that's what it should be.
I think it would be weird not having a Nintendo console, though.
Channel, it just doesn't make sense for Nintendo. They'll have the 3D Mario at launch. No backwards compatibility will lead to people buying 3 mid-launch titles, then deluxes through the year. I mean, it's yeah, sure.
I mean, they've launched without a Mario game. They launched the Wii with Zelda and Wii Sports.
But he's just suggesting that they'll have the big system seller that a lot of people will feel like they have to get.
Yeah.
And
that's the big one.
And then there won't be the mass exodus because with backwards compatibility, because that game is just too enticing. Which is why it will probably be Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Now, if Nintendo's going the VR route, they could just call this thing the Virtual Boy 2. I'm all
No.
Virtual Switch. It's like a Switch, but it's not really there.
I mean,
it's a
they
virtual
advertised
Switch.
the Virtual Boy as being portable, and it really wasn't.
It wasn't at all.
No.
And I wanted to say I never saw anybody out in public with one, but then they only sold like 9 of them. So you wouldn't have seen that anyway.
I wish I had a Virtual Boy.
Jason wants one so bad.
Yeah.
I've gotten to play on one. We borrowed one from a neighborhood kid, and got to play a whole bunch of games on it. And you know what? It's fun for about 30 minutes, and eye strain starts to set in. And you realize that the brain wasn't meant to see so many shades of red all at once.
I finally got to play one at the video game museum.
Oh, cool.
And I played Wario Land, which was the one game I really wanted to play.
It's good. It's a solid game.
Yeah, I only played one for like 5 minutes at a Walmart when it came out, and it was tennis.
I don't even think there's a single actual 3D game on that system, if I remember correctly.
There's a
No, there's a couple things that kind of mimic it, but there's nothing that's
There
true
is
3D.
there's a Star Fox ripoff, and there's a
That's all vectory and doesn't.
Yeah, there's vector graphics things, which if you want to call that 3D, okay, that would be like Red Alert and the 3D Tetris game, and I think like a 3D pinball. But a lot of that is still
vector,
two-dimensional.
That Tetris game was the hardest thing to look at.
Oh yeah, and it was kind of slow.
It's just wires. Yeah. Triple Knight Nintendo Cerebro. That's what they should call it.
Yeah.
That's what they should call it. And then
Check straight to your brain.
You hook it up in your big round room. And this certainly is a big round room for my Nintendo.
Yeah. It's a big round pizza that has 128 Marios on it.
Okay, any final thoughts, guys? We're right at 2 hours. Let's go ahead and wrap up here.
I think I'm good. I don't know.
Have we knocked it out?
Yeah.
No, I think I'm here for whatever Nintendo does. I don't think they'll screw the pooch like they did with the Wii U. I don't see them doing that. I think they have too much goodwill saved up. So I hope for the best.
No, I think they'll be a lot smarter than that, but I also don't trust them to be as consumer friendly as I want them to be. So, like, I think that they will simultaneously kind of screw me for what I really want, and still put out stuff that I have to have so bad I will buy the crap anyway. I think that's what'll ultimately happen. But I hope not. I hope they actually let you port your library over. The fact that they haven't said it yet makes me very nervous.
They'll give you a Switch XL as a consolation. It's coming.
Jason, anything else you already said you're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Aaron, I appreciate you sticking around for so long, man.
Yeah, no problem.
and everybody was about to fall asleep. And we will bring back Aaron again sometime in the not too distant future. I am sure. If you didn't run him off with your complaint about the Genesis D-pad.
No, the Genesis D-pad is big enough that it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
But Nintendo does it, and it's so small.
Yeah.
That it's so hard to play games like Celeste with, where it's like,
Yeah,
I said I wanted to dash up diagonal, not side.
Yeah, I can't play Celeste with, in handheld mode. I have to play it with a Pro Controller.
Yeah, you gotta play with a Pro Controller. I have not tried to play with buttons. That sounds like torture.
Painful.
I gotta do that. I gotta try to do that.
I don't like to play Cuphead handheld either.
No.
Well, anyway,
Although, I played Cuphead with a stick, so...
I only play Cuphead when they have it on display as an arcade game at one of these conventions. That's the only way to play it.
Yeah, I can do that now.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been meaning to. I can play that on an arcade machine now. It's super cool. Anyway, appreciate you guys. We'll see you again real soon. Aaron, once again, really awesome of you coming on tonight. And we'll see you again in a day or two, everybody. I'm not gonna announce anything because we're on hiatus. Bye, everybody. See you, folks.
Bye, y'all.